Hey, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Again, wherever you are in the world, welcome here. I'm Hans, the Storyteller Nordsiek, and it's November 24. I have about a 10-minute lecture about something special that this airplane has. It's about the propeller system. So I like to explain that to you. Where am I? I am in Europe. I'm in a country called the Netherlands, and I'm in the city, near the city called Breda, at an airport called Breda International Airport. And I'm here in the Flying Museum of Seppe Breda International Airport. And there are several beautiful airplanes here, including this Stearman. And I'm going to tell you something, explain you something about the propeller system. It'll take about 10 minutes. Some weeks ago, I talked about how the propeller, let me see this, here you go. How this propeller, the pitch can be controlled during the flight. The blade angle, what we call the pitch, it is constantly moving, depending on the solid condition of the flight, and then it moves the angle of the blades, and it will make it a better propeller, more optimum. In other words, more speed, more climb performance, more takeoff performance, etc. So this is an automatic system that works with the propeller that can move during the flight, the propeller blade angle, and it's done by this. Here we go into the engine, and there you see this thing here, that one. That's called the governor, and that is controlling the pitch of the propeller. You can have fixed pitch propellers, and you can have constant speed propeller. So this is a constant speed propeller governed by that governor that you see right there. This one, boat and cable, is going to the cockpit. Now let's talk about why would you like to control the pitch? What is the aerodynamic advantage? Well, the advantage is as follows. And in similarity, an example: if you drive a car and you have a hand shift gear, like most cars have a hand shift gear, especially in Europe, 5, 6 gears. And in order to accelerate, when you are at a standstill, you put it in gear number 1. Remember that. It's like when you're walking, and driving in a car is like making small steps. So it's easy to pull something, and you can make small steps. Well, if you want to go faster, you have to accelerate and go to the next gear, and then again to the next gear. And essentially you make bigger steps. The faster you want to drive or walk, you make bigger steps. And that is the principle. Apply that principle to the propeller of this airplane. Constant speed propeller. If you would have a fixed pitch propeller, then you can only be able to either pull very good, like in a first gear in a car, or you can go very fast. And the average pitch propeller is somewhere between not being able to go very fast and not being able to go not being able to pull very quickly. So the solution to that would be if you can change the blade angle during the flight. The faster you go, the more air you can chop off. So then the blades has to alter and change their pitch during the flight. That is essentially why we have a constant speed propeller on this airplane. And I'll take you inside the cockpit, and I will show you how do we do that. Okay, here we go. We go to the cockpit. How do we change that? What is the levers in the cockpit in order to change the mixture, in order to change the power, and in order to change the propeller RPM? Three things to control. Keep that in mind. 3 things to control the propeller and engine combination. Now I'm stepping inside the cockpit. Here we go. 1 minute, 1 second. I'm here. Yep. There we go. So now I'm here inside the cockpit. Look at here, I'm here. So here we go, and we switch on the light. So we are now inside the cockpit. Here are the instruments, and here, look at here. This is called RPM. That's the revolutions per minute. Of course, now it's at 0 because we're at a standstill. Normally, during the flight, it will be around 2000, 20, now 2000. And do you see there's a red line at 2200 in the upper left corner? Exactly, that's the maximum RPM that you're allowed to go on this engine. And you see a green arc there between 1900 and 2200. That is the normal operating range, not more than 2200, and normally not less than 1900 RPM. And there's another instrument that is here, important. That's the manifold pressure. It's now at 31. Well, what is this? This is essentially a pressure indicator. And now it shows, as the engine is not running, it shows the ambient pressure. It's a high pressure area, so it's around 30, now 31 inches pressure. If the engine would be started now, then you would see this needle going to around, somewhere around here. Because the carburetor will, the engine will rotate at a low RPM, low idle, and then the pressure in the engine, essentially the pressure in the carburetor, will be very low. This instrument is a measure for how much power you give. 10 would be idle, and maximum somewhere around 24, 20, 28, 29 would be maximum power. So that's the power, and this is the RPM. Now look at here. What do we got here? Here we go. Let me see. Here you go. I'll try to light it up like this. Here you see, this is to control the engine. This is the P of propeller, M of mixture, and this is the throttle. This is the amount of power, fast, slow, fast, slow. And this is what defines the RPM of the engine. I can tell the engine I want 2200 RPM if I would push it all the way forward, or I want 2000 RPM, I put it a little bit back. So herewith I control the propeller, and then the governor will take care of, okay Hans, you want 2000 RPM, are you sure? Yes, I'm sure, I will take care of it. Wow, automatic system, 2000 RPM. If this is the throttle during flight, 2000 RPM, I would give more power, then this system would say, hey, you give me more power. If I do nothing, the propeller will have to make a higher revolutions. No, I will control it in such a way, I will adjust the blade angles of the propellers in such a way that I keep 2000 RPM what you want. So whatever you do here, Hans, more or less power, I don't care. I'm ordered to keep 2000 RPM. And here is then the throttle. More power, less power. So this is the mixture, that's the third one. At high altitude, the air pressure is lower, static air pressure. Then you can put less fuel into the carburetor. That's a short version of it. So this would be lean, and this would be rich, like this, fully rich. So takeoff. If we would make a takeoff, full RPM, this would go forward, and then I give full power here. I will have around, look at here, then I will have 2200 RPM, and I will have an ambient pressure of around 28, 29. So here we go again, full power during takeoff. Then you're not allowed to keep full power for more than 5 minutes. So when you are airborne, you want to go back to climb power. You reduce the power to about 24 inches, and it's about 1 inch back, and then you can reduce the RPM. And if you then would cruise along and you would make like aerobatics or turns, whatever happens, it will keep it at 2000 RPM. So that's the explanation how and why a constant speed propeller works. And now what I find amazing, that this system was designed, thought about, invented about 80 years ago, in the 1920s, 30s already. So I remember when the first man flew in 1903, about 20 years later, 30 years later, they were able to think about design and make such a beautiful system. Nowadays, if you see bigger propeller airplanes, they still have essentially the same system, works exactly the same, new material, new things, and still the same principle. And I have this airplane for 30 years. I have this propeller governor, constant speed propeller, for about 14 years. I never, knock on wood or something, I never had any issue with it. Very reliable. All right, we're at the end of this lecture. Tomorrow, it's Wednesday, November 25. I have something completely different, and that is about the hero's journey. Has nothing to do with airplanes, has to do with you and you and you and a little bit with me. The hero's journey, a very old universal principle for mankind. Wow, will be something completely different. Thank you for watching. Thank you for seeing me. Talk to you next time. I'll be back, Hans the Storyteller, Nordsiek.